Hi everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I'm your host, Dr. Haider Shah. On behalf of Calvas, I would like to welcome all of you to this webinar. Thank you very much for joining us. Today we have another very interesting topic, and I'm really honored to welcome and introduce our distinguished guest speaker who is going to talk about academic writing, interpreting, and synthesizing. Writing is an art, and we must learn and develop ourselves how to write appropriately. So, how to do it? For this session, for this purpose, we have a wonderful speaker with us in today's this session. You will get the best insights about all these things in today's this session. So stay tuned because in amazing stuff are coming ahead in this session. Before we start, I would like to thank Calvas for arranging such enlightenment sessions for their support and providing us such a wonderful platform. The aim of Calvas is to give you the opportunity to connect and interact with world-renowned speakers, academic leaders, teachers, authors, researchers, experts, professionals, and businessmen to learn from their experiences and recommendations, which will create an impact and will enable you to learn and develop yourself in order to grow and transform individually, as well as to contribute to the world in a positive way, as our slogan is come, learn, and share knowledge. So today we have amazing person as guest. He is an international known personality. He is a multi-dynamic person having vast experience and exposure, who has received multiple awards for his achievements right from his student life to professional life. He is a great human being, and we always see him while contributing to the world in a positive way. So let me introduce him formally. He was born in the Mongan, a city East Java, Indonesia in 1961. He is associate professor at University of UNUSA, Indonesia, the accounting, management, banking, stock exchange and business, the MPI, the scientific writing, and Bahasa Indonesia, Indonesian language. Moreover, he had dedicated his time as the director of language laboratory development 1989 to 2003, vice rector, the president for student affairs at his college 2000 to 2003, while also the director of language laboratory, and he is now still the director of language laboratory at the same college. During the period of 1989 to 2003, he had been preoccupied with writing some course books for his students. For example, the English for accounting, English for management, English for banking, English for stock exchange, and some textbooks of English for business writing. He is also teaching the Bahasa Indonesian language as well. Last but not the least, he's a wonderful speaker, author, teacher, researcher, professional, and above everything, a great human being. So please help me in welcoming our guest, Associate Professor Dr. Jawari. Welcome to the Calvas platform, and thank you very much for joining us, Prof.
Thank you very much, Dr. Haider Shah,
It's
for this
really pleasure to have you, Prof, with us.
and I yeah, like slide.
Yes, Prof. A soft reminder to the audience that Prof will be presenting and he will leave time for question answer session. If
Ah,
you have
yes,
any question, you can ask in comment section or you can email us at info@createofcalwas.com. So over to you, Prof. Thank you.
yes. Thank you, dear fellow researchers everywhere. Now let me present what I have been presenting since years ago about academic writing. But this topic is very special for this session: citing, synthesizing, uh, citing, analyzing, and synthesizing. So, international webinar held by Bahrain University. And actually, I would like to talk about the two, the two essential subtopics before we go to citing and synthesizing. So there are two topics, subtopics. Number one is citing, and then in this case, in the process of building the framework. So we can see the framework from the citing, and then after that we can go to the process of synthesizing. These two subtopics here are very important, especially for making our research papers or research article becoming more, academically, rather than we do not know about these two processes. Why? Because the key is in this process. Now, let's what is actually citing. So citing here is actually for building the framework. We can start from synthesis one, and this is the level of the research actually. The more the research developed, yeah, by citing so many references, then the higher we can go to synthesis two. And therefore, in this synthesis two, we also have some other references that are different from the first synthesis one, or it can be similar but in a broader sense. And therefore, we can also create synthesis two. The more you read again and again, especially the researchers from some other references in the same theme, the same topic, then we can also create another synthesis that is much higher, synthesis 3, and so on. So, from this kind of process, actually we know at the level of the research. For example, if we have the journal of, for example, key 1, key 2, key 3, key 4, then we know that synthesis 1 can be at the level of key 4 or key 3. And synthesis 2 can also be in key 3 or probably key 2, yeah, for making higher. But key 3, synthesis 3 can be considered key, level key 1. Uh, I hope that reviewers, especially of any journal, understand the process of this kind of building the framework. So the higher, the more synthesis, and the more the more complicated, and the more scientific. And the last is that on the other way around, and so on. So this is actually the way how to look at the level of the research done by every researcher, author, writer, or students in the graduate program. And what is the central point in a research writing that is full of citing activities is the theoretical framework. So introduction usually based on the survey, based on a special a short review, but literature review that is theoretical framework. Usually, it is always in the chapter 2, if it is the dissertation or thesis, or even in any research journal article. So in research journal article also, literature review is actually the key of especially the editor, especially the reviewers, understanding the frame, yeah, the frame of the eyes that owned by the author or the writer. And we can also see the level from this. Why? Because methodology cannot be created without knowing the theoretical framework. So the theoretical framework is the key success of doing anything, even in the result of discussion. If we have already found out, got the evidence, the data finding from the analysis, we have to discuss and how to discuss it. And therefore, the weakness in the research mostly in this result and discussion. The students, especially, or the novice writers, tends to express the result more than the way how to discuss using the frame. I call it the frame because it is like a glasses, theoretical framework. So theoretical framework can be used for discussing the result, whether the finding here is in line with the theories being cited or the previous studies being cited, or they are different, or there are some similarities. And the way how to discuss, the broader the discussion, the broader the theoretical framework, then the broader the discussion. Very interesting. But if the framework is very limited, then the discussion is also automatically very limited. It can be clearly understood. Yeah, so therefore, literature review here is the central point in a research writing that is full of citing activities. Unfortunately, yeah, after this, then I would like to provide the uh, as metaphor. Yeah. What is our framework based on references we cited? So the author can be identified that she or he is confused. How do we know that he is confused? From the references. After this, I will show you. Even though the picture here is not physically shown by the author, but we can draw his physical appearance like this from his or her writing. So after reading so many, yeah, references, then he looks confused. This is the picture. Even though in the physical performance, he or she does not look like this, but you can see it from the the writing. And the next one, I'll give you an analogy again. So, an analogy of filtering all the sources. This is the small balls, yeah, are put, yeah, in the funnel, and the funnel is our frame. So we do not take all the ideas that are not relevant because they will give us the rough result. On the other hand, we should get the smallest or the refined result references that we can use it for our own idea. So references that we cited, previous studies we recorded, all we have interviewed, observed, and experienced are like the smallest balls that we are putting in the funnel. And only a drop of water, that is our original novelty. So novelty is not always as the big as the previous studies or a lot of studies that we have read. Why? Because it must be our own, and that is even a drop of water. And therefore, research synthesis is the integration of existing knowledge and research finding pertinent to an issue. And this is the whole of the bottom of the funnel. The aim of synthesis is to increase the generality and applicability of those findings and to develop new knowledge through the process of integration. And this is actually very important in looking at the research uh, writing. So what is synthesis? Synthesizing. This is very clearly synthesizing is combining different aspects of your ideas and research and the ideas of others in order to produce new ideas. So, mapping allows the readers to build new and meaningful knowledge links by active engagement. So, this is the picture. Research plus more research plus our own ideas. So, what is our own ideas in looking at or reading that cited references? And that is equal new ideas. So the new ideas here is one is our ideas, but after plus the research and more research. If the process like this, I believe that the any research article will be more, highly academic or scientific because there is a real novelty. A framework without synthesizing. I have been the editor and reviewers since about 32 years in in 1989. Yeah, it's about 32 years. I always read the recent article in the theoretical framework like this, and this is actually the picture of someone confused or his writing is confusing or the author is confused. For example, France, 2008, studied undergraduate online student. We looked at 17 females and 80 females and found that none of them liked EBA. According to France, the evidence suggested that all students are reluctant to learn citation style. And then suddenly, cite again. Paris 2010 also studies undergraduate students. She looks at 40 females and 50 males and found that males were significantly more inclined to use citation software. Findings suggest that females might graduate sooner. And then go on, Goldstein 2012 looked at British undergraduate. Among a sample of 50, all females, all confident their abilities to cite and were eager to write their dissertation. This is very, very odd. Why? We do not know what the authors think about this. So this is rough data. It is like a data we combine from any survey or questionnaire, and then the result we just let them scattering on the floor. So what is actually the idea from the authors? We don't know. There is no idea from the authors, and this is very very odd. Yeah, if we write the article and citing like this, and there is no interpretation. But now this is the example of the good framework. Studies of undergraduate students reveal conflicting conclusions regarding relationship between advanced scholarly study and citation efficacy. So this first sentence is the new one, and this is actually the result of reading the citation. So although France found that no participant enjoyed learning citation style, yeah, Golden determined in a larger study that all participants was felt comfortable citing sources, suggesting that variables among participant and control group population must be examined more closely. Nah, why using those? Although because the writers, the authors understand the meaning, and although Paris 2010 expanded on French original study with a larger, more diverse sample, and so on and so forth. And all of these, up to the end, summarized by the author. What is the author's idea? That is on the top sentence. We can use it, yeah, deductively or either inductively. We can also cite in the beginning and then we conclude at the end. It depends on us as long as we are consistent. So the first sentence here cannot be found in any previous studies. What was cited, but it is the summary of what have been cited, and therefore using although. Why? Because there is a contradiction. How do we know? How do we know that there is a contradiction? From reading that kind of, you know, the idea on the top, and by doing this, we understand that this short paragraph is included with the author's idea originally on the top sentence. Yeah, this is. So we have to understand which one is actually synthesized and there is a novelty. Novelty is not always the biggest point, but small one is okay. But this is also the ideas that is created by the author. Now look at this. How to find the same research topic and take the similarities and or differences. So what we have cited previously, you can look at in the Google Scholar. For example, the effect of teachers' competency on the student learning in achievement. There were about 494,000. If we look at similarities, only 3, then we can also create a novelty. Only 3. Yeah, at least only 3. Why? Because 3 can be judged as the calculation for decision making. So there are about 500, half a million. Try to find out the similar result. And then from this, we take the abstract. So the step is to synthesize information from different sources. Yeah. Then organize the sources, 3 abstract aja. So we do not have to read all, yeah. But the better we read all the article. We do not have any time for reading the article, just read the abstract. Organize the sources, outline the structure, write paragraph with the topic sentences, and revise and edit. And what is the abstract? At least 3. So any abstract must be number 1. Maaf ya, sorry, this is number 4 and number 5. This is number 4 and 5, not number 1. So number 1 is topic, if any. Number 2, objective purpose. And number 3 is method. And number 4, result. And number 5, conclusion or recommendation. Any abstract must have this. If abstract, at least number 2 and number 4, objective, method, result. If there is no one, either 2, 3, or 4, should be objective, number 2, number 3, method, number 4, result. Number 1 and number 5, conclusion, are optional. But the best one is topic, objective, method, result, conclusion. The best. But at least 3. How about if the 3 here is absent 1? Don't read it. Find another one, another reason. Don't read it. And if you are the editor or the publisher, don't publish any abstract, any research that does not contain number 1, number 2, number 4. Don't publish it because it is not a good abstract. Why? Because topic is in introduction. Objective here is in introduction. Method is in the research chapter 3. But this is created from framework chapter 3. And the result is chapter 4. discussed by using the chapter 2. And then number 5, chapter 5 is conclusion. So abstract is miniature. It is like a building. If we look at the building, we don't know the real building or hotel or whatever campus. It is easy for us because we don't have time to observe going around the whole building of a campus, a big campus. We go to the place where a miniature is placed. Usually it is covered with the glasses in order it is not touched by anyone. So we look at the miniature of the whole building, then we know actually which room, which floor, which we want to see. And if we look like this, yeah, try to summarize three abstract, write all citation depending on the sources of the research, and we have read and summarized. Draw a table with the column related to the research body. Only abstract. Check the similarities and differences and try to summarize based on the checklist. And step 2 is outline your structure using chronologically or thematically, depending on us. For example, Edward 2009, Brown 2010, Christopher 2011. Okay, as long as the latter is the wider of the former, yeah, the earlier. But if the earlier is the more much wider, higher level than number 2010, for example, then we can also make in order differently. Sometimes researcher find the previous studies, yeah, not comprehensively. Sometimes find even the newest one, but there was another one in the previous one, but more profoundly discussed. And you can also make in not only depending on the time, but depending on the the level of the research. Or thematically, for example, facilities are important. Besides that, expertise is vital. Finally, home condition is also essential. So we can also thematically facilities, teacher expertise, and home condition. So facilities, classroom, laboratories, for example, expert education level, experience, and other training. Home condition, the phosphorus, number of families, and so on and so forth. That is thematically. And if we have like this, then it is easy for us. It is much. Write the paragraph of each citation, then summarize the paragraph. Yeah. And that is our own idea. It can be in the beginning or at the end of the citation. Discuss the differences if they are different. Don't let them without any consideration that we don't know the differences based on their similarities or differences. Yeah, this is condense the summary based on point 2, and this is after that revise, edit, and proofread. There is no writing product that is instant. I believe if you read an article just one and you submit, it will be very odd. And therefore, read and reread the paragraphs in the summary. Edit when necessary according to each of the sources based on the similarities and differences. Proofread, however, we can still need other reviewers or readers to proofread. Remember, the definition of writing is this. Yeah, you can look at what is the definition of writing. The definition of writing is drafting or rewriting. Then writing, revising three times. So revising is three times, meaning that don't submit our recent article while you finish at the beginning. And that is the drafting of rewriting. It will be very odd. Even I myself, after reading, after writing, then I stop and drinking coffee and come back to read again. There is something, it's funny. Yeah, and then I revise again and again. And that is the process. We must be patiently to edit and revise. If possible, necessary, we can also ask someone else to check. Yeah, this is more objective than we understand what is missing in our writing. And the next one is this one is the checklist of every abstract, only abstract. So don't read the whole article. Do it. You can do it very quickly. And after this, you can also make a proposal in 2 days or maybe 1 day. Now, check, for example, at what in 1919. Aim. Yeah, so this is without topic. Yeah. I just guess or I just assume that there is no topic. Topic is very important in the abstract. For example, if I want to examine the factors of learning motivation, I should make a topic in the beginning before this objective. For example, learning motivation is very important in blah 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 blah, and therefore, yeah, this is the topic. Okay, no problem. Without topic, directly to aim. The objective of the research. I bet the best article in the abstract there must be a purpose, purposes or objective. The purposes and objectives are the same. So, what is the purpose? To examine the factors, learning motivation. And what is the second? Also to find out factors increasing the learner's motivation. About Christopher, 2011, also to analyze factors affecting learners' motivation. How can we find this all? As in the Google, there were about 500 here. Just take 3 that are similar. You have to find motivation, about motivation. Only 3. And then in the abstract also the method. Method here is quantitative or qualitative depending. So the methodology, this for example, is the study, yeah, using qualitative or quantitative study, for example. Yeah, and also description. Every aspect in the methodology must be also written in the abstract, in the book number 2 or number 3, yeah, and respondent and so on. Qualitative interview, 100 respondent, quantitative review. This is only list them on a table. Do it. So even doctoral degree, if you want to read more, 7 or 10 sources, the better. But at least 3, that it is very interesting. And then conclusion. Oh, school facilities very dominant. Teachers' expertise affecting motivation. Whom condition the most important to increase motivation? Try to find out that are different. I believe there must be the same variables that are in the conclusion. But try to find out the similar variables that were found by 3 people, 3 researchers. Or if you want to be brave, you can also discuss the different variable, other variable. That's okay. Yeah, this one, motivation, try to get the different. Yeah, maybe number 1 also about blah blah blah, A or B, and number 2 also A and B, and number 3 also about A and B. But we don't mention that. Try to find out the difference. Or you can also mention the similar variable they are also analyzed. Then evaluation. So evaluation usually in the conclusion. In the conclusion that I thought at the time optional. So research article have their abstract without conclusion or recommendation. But the best one, it should be included. Now suppose if only 3, then we have to summarize by ourselves. So school facilities should be paid attention in order to increase student motivation. The second evaluation, teachers help learners to learn in the classroom rather than other factors. The teacher skill. In order to increase student motivation, home conditions should be paid attention. This one is only in the abstract. So don't read the whole article. Only in the abstract. And from this, try to use our own by basing on this data. This is our own. This one. Wider team. Factors affecting student motivation. So three researches, three studies, yeah, from Brown, Christopher, and so on, the same. Therefore, I told you open Google Scholar, open and write the same title on the top, on the, and then browse 1,000, yeah, 100,000, only three. Then such what facilities at the school. And this is our own words, yeah, not copy paste. Don't copy paste. This is our own word from the previous table. Facilities at the school have important roles in the effort of increasing student motivation to learn. It can be proved by 70 student analyze the research. Yeah. Advance. Teacher skill or expertise, that's our own word, making the student motivated. Brown found that the student with high score studied were motivated and so on. The last, the students are highly motivated in their learning due to their good home condition. Christopher, in his finding, proved that the students with their home condition got higher score. This is our own word. So if we analyze using plagiarism machine, it will not be high similarities. Why? Because this is our own word from our mind based on the previous summary. And from this, try to do like this. Now, facilities at school, number one. Teacher skill, number two. Home in condition are the three factors that can increase student motivation. The red sentence is our own idea. How can we judge that this is the drop of a water from the funnel? The bottles are the blue or the black color. Facilities at the school have an important role in the effort. Blah 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 Edward. Blah 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 Brown. Blah 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 Christopher. This is the clear idea from the author. By reading this, we understand that the authors understand the three cited references. If there is no red color, meaning that the authors get confused as the previous PowerPoint. Yeah. So red color is the drop of water, and this is the novelty from reading the three, references. And this is not yet the best one to see that the author really understand clearly in their mind, in their brain, mapping in their brain. So I can, or we can draw the researcher's brain from this one, the best one. First, yeah, facilities at school, teacher skill, and home condition are the three factors that can increase student motivation. First, blah 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 blah. Another factor, blah blah blah. Not only blah blah blah, but also. So first, another, not only, also, chronologically, showing that the author's brain understand what clearly, clearly understand what he have read. Very good. The previous one is okay, but this is the best. So the brain can be drawn. Whether the author's brain here is complicated or not from his writing. From this, then I know this is the best brain. We can draw this brain actually. How to draw this brain? Now look at this. Yeah. So if we read like this, the readers mapping home. And then we imagine the home. And then the classroom, the expertise of teachers is also important. We map like this in our brain automatically. If we do not map like this, meaning that the text we read from the author is very complicated. And this is the whom, yeah. This is the process the teachers and the teachers. This is and also the whom, yeah, the who. So in a mind map, information structure. How do we know the structure? That is the drop of the water plus the smaller bottle in the funnel. Structured in a way that mirrors exactly how the brain functions in a radian rather than linear. People, researchers, students, and some, not all, yeah, writers, and tend to be linear. If we think linearly, we cannot draw the conclusion. But radian, yeah, rather than linear, it literally map out our plot. If we think progressively, then we know, although, yeah, we all know not only but also. That is the radian way of thinking. So using association, connection, and triggers to stimulate further mapping allows the readers to build new and meaningful knowledge linked by engagement. And this is very important. So if you read any text and then if it is complicated, we do not draw by ourselves, and this is very difficult. Uh, Forget the grammar and spelling. Why? We have the machine. We have the machine of grammar. So if we want to check our grammar, we can check our grammar machine. The spelling also. But the grammar machine cannot detect this logical connector. If there is my brain up to now cannot be programmed. If we can program the brain, maybe it is very dangerous. Yeah. So if we talk about brain, then it is actually the right of our God. That it is mystery. Why there is no up to now, yeah, the program of computer can program the kind of link of the mapping of thinking like this, and therefore we have to study it. There is no. How about the grammar? Easy. Check the grammar using spelling. Check. How the grammar machine? Or you can consult the native speaker. No, we have the machine now. And how about this one? No, there is no machine that can detect the author's logic of thinking. No, there is no. How to use not only but also first and another one? It is our own brain. We have to practice by ourselves. Without practice, we cannot do it by using the machine. Yeah, there is no machine up to now that can be programmed using this kind of thinking here. Because in our brain we have nerves, and the nerves here are very, mysterious. But we practice. So a framework being mapped like this: school facilities, teachers expertise, home condition, dan student motivation. If you want to do it using statistic, then there will be three hypotheses. Hypothesis one: school facilities has a significant effect on student motivation. Teachers experts have an a significant effect on blah blah student motivation, and so also home condition has a significant effect. There are three hypotheses, and then we try to do it using the similar methodology used or we create by ourselves based on chapter 3 that we have created from chapter 2 in the theoretical framework. And this is actually the level, very low level, yeah, only 3. If we are doctoral degree, please read more than 3, 5, 7, or 10 or more complicated to make you more academic than or scientific. This is only a small one. In order you can follow the way that it is easy, only reading the abstract. But if you have time, of course, better you read the whole article. Why? If we read the whole articles, we can also have a kind of more words or vocabulary to describe our own using our own language. Yeah, based on the 3 abstract, we have citing. So the more novelty through several theoretical framework, then the more novelty we have, and our brain actually can be drawn how what is the level of your thinking or reasoning. It can be seen from your writing, from the novelty you created. Yeah. And this is actually easy for us. Now framework in a mid level. That was in the low level. Yeah, that was in the low level. But if you teach undergraduate student, better the low level. And this is to master degree, for example. So we know what level of student you graduated from a university. It can be seen from this. Sometimes undergraduate uh, do the level 2. But unfortunately, sometimes we can see the result of the thesis that is done by the master degree is in the level of undergraduate. We don't know, but from this we know. And now let's go to framework in a middle level. Brown argued that learning English as a second language is different from learning English as a foreign language. I underline that is the key. So learning English as a second language different from learning English as a foreign language. Second language is in Indonesia because we don't speak English. We speak Indonesian and only foreign language. Yeah. Foreign language. In Malaysia and Philippines, English is the second language because they speak English all the time and also their regional language. But Indonesia no, foreign language. So different. Yes, I agree with this one. When there is not any modification of learning strategy in the classroom, the learners will learn English difficulty if English is their foreign language like Indonesia. On the contrary, for the learners who English is the second language like Singapore and Philippines, they will learn it more easily. I agree with this. This is the level of the research of undergraduate. But according to David, we read more to find another one. He stated that there is no difference between learning English as a second language and that English as foreign language when the classroom process is meaningful. So there is another factor that make them similar. What is the factor? The process of the classroom that is meaningful. Oh, yes. When teachers modify the classroom processes in a meaningful way, the learners will learn English more easily for either English as second or English as a foreign language. Yes. So depending on the way of the process in the classroom. So there will not any difference between the second language and yeah. So there are two difference and then synthesis one. Learning English as a second language is similar to learning English as a foreign language, provided that the process at the classroom process is meaningful. We follow the second one because the second one is the higher level of the research found by Brown. So researchers should understand this. Don't be on the other way around. What we created in the latest one, but actually there is a previous one that is better. So researchers should read more and more. Google is free for us, Google Scholar. Yeah. Try to find out the same topic of the research title and type it and read more and more. And this is synthesis one. But we can also do like this. This is antithesis. This is level one. After that, try to find antithesis. This is level two. And try to find another synthesis that is absolute idea. This is the best of the best. And if we read the article in this process, I know that the researcher is the real researcher and brilliant and scientifically very good in high reasoning. Now let's look at the example. Stefan, learning English as a second language is similar to learning English as a foreign language, provided that the classroom process is made meaningful. That was the latest result of the research. But we find another research. This is I know from David Gradle in 2017, with the idea of what English is. And I believe this. And even many people around the world believe in this. Learning any language, whether it is English as a foreign language or English as a second language, does not always require the target language exactly the same as the native speaker's way of acquisition. I actually agree with it. We cannot learn English foreign language, yeah, the same absolutely 100% like UK. We cannot learn English the same 100% absolutely like American or Australian. And therefore, we have Singaporean English. We have Malaysian English. We have Indian English. Are they the same with British and American? No. But the writing are the same. The writing are the same. So there is no writing of logical different from American, but English, yes. And this is when looking at the concept of the what English is, learning English tends to be learned communicatively. So if you understand my English, Indonesian English, why do we have to bother? No, sir, I don't. Please speak English like American. And I say, yes, I don't want to listen to you because your English is Malaysian, for example. Please speak your English like British English. And then there is no communication then. So the concept of English is learning English tends to be learned communicatively. English is spoken by many nations with their identities. This thus characterizes their typical accent and varieties. So my English is Indonesian English, but you understand whether, but you understand we can communicate. Thus characterizes their typical accent and varieties. In that case, there is no difference between learning English as EFL and ESL. I agree with it. And if you read the research in this level, it's okay. We publish it because they know up to date. If this one is okay and best. And synthesis two, learning English for foreign learners for complex problem. This is our own idea. When the teachers understand the condition of the learners, whether they are learners of EFL or ESL. Differences among the learners' background can be taken into account when the classroom process begins. So never ask me or ask anybody, hey, please study English and you must be like 100% like a native speaker of United Kingdom. Yeah. The whole life to study English, I cannot guarantee that you are totally 100% the same as native speaker. No, and this is the actually the highest synthesis. And mapping also is EFL, ESL, L1 is well, it's better. So L1 is my Indonesian it still characterizes my English. If you are from Malaysia, I believe your Malaysian language characterizes your English. India, the people from India also characterizes their English, I believe. And therefore, this is the highest. So mapping to create a novelty based on multiple synthesis. This is the highest one. Look at this. Uh, Everyone, the participants, Please look at this example. Compare these two simple things. Arthur argued that I found this actually. I read this, and that's therefore I revised by myself. Arthur argued that the learner's first language affects their acquisition of the language in the learning process. Bradley found that the learner's first language system hinders the learning process in second language classes. Christopher found in his research that the learners who were learning English as second language, tongue, found difficulty in one English the study period of one semester. Bad academic writing due to no new ideas, no comment, no criticism, no ideas from the author. So it shows that the author is unable to analyze what he has cited. But B, even though longer, it is easily understood. Some studies have found that learners' first language can affect their target language acquisition in their class. This is the summary of first, yeah, another, like. Why? Because similar. Not only, but also different. So they are similar. Like Arthur and Bradley, Christopher also argued. So the three people are in similarity. So reading like this is enjoyable. Why? We know, and our mind got knowledge very easily. But the left side very complicated, and I don't understand, and I got also dragged into the world of full of darkness. But the right side here, we train the readers into a good of thinking. So if we do like this, not only good for our own mind, brain, but it is also good for other readers because we try to give the way of thinking systematically, chronologically, that is systematic. But if we write like this, you let the readers get confused, and therefore you train the readers of thinking blurringly. Yeah. So blurring thinking like this. But this is you teach the readers also the way of good thinking. And checklist. Yeah. So from that kind of the process, I give you the tips. The last tip. Number one, do I introduce the paragraph with a clear focus topic sentence, whether it is in the end or at the beginning? If it is absent, then your writing is bad. Try to do it again. Do I discuss more than one source in the paragraph? Yeah. So paragraph can be understood whether you collect different references. Do I mention only the most relevant providing rather than describing every part of the study? So if there are three, try to summarize three, yeah, the same topic but different result. Oh, or it can also be different result. And then do I discuss the similarities or differences between the sources rather than summarizing each source in turn? Do I put the finding argument of the sources in my own words? If not, that is copy pasting. So copy paste is very dangerous. If the paragraph organized around a single idea, this is what is I meant using chronological and logical connector. First, another one, but not only, but also although. So although meaning that you know the difference between one idea and another. Not only, but also this is also similar. Unfortunately, meaning that it is different. And then is there a logical transition from the paragraph to the next? If there is no, then we get confused. Our brain is confusing or we get confused. So that is actually based on these references, and I hope that everything will be uh, very good for us for discussion. Okay, thank you, uh, Dr. Haider. There is time.
Thank you very much, Prof, for your wonderful presentation. And I love the way you started it right from the what are the building blocks of the theoretical framework, the literature review, and very nicely you have mentioned the role of the theoretical framework in terms of novelty, that they actually play a very important role. And I love the idea of explaining the synthesizing. The research plus multiple research plus your idea is equal to synthesizing. What a nice, fine analogies you have given. And I love the chronological order, the list of the table, and I love your steps right from the how you are going to organize the sources, then the outline, the structure, the third one is the paragraph writing, then write and revisit, revised it, and then very nicely you have discussed in the table that how does the abstract is started and ended, and the methodology, the source, the objective, the methodology, conclusion, and recommendation. And I love the way you explain it in the multiple examples. What a fine way to teach the people what you have said initially, and now you are going to bridge the gap by showing them the practical example how it is being conducted. And I love the way you have come up with the idea of synthesis and the antithesis and then synthesis, and how we reach to the absolute idea. That was a wonderful part of it. And I love one thing that, Prof, your 4 decades, almost 4 decades experience was very much visible, and we could see how you are connecting the different dots in order to explain your argument, your main theme, which was very fine. And I love the way you were explaining the things, from things were coming out from your heart, and you were explaining the way it was very simple for everyone. Our colleague, the Dr. Shah, was also one of the participant, and he even wrote that the prof is doing very well. And I think that's the wonderful part of you, that you explain in a very nice and in very simple words. Thank you very much, Prof, for such a wonderful explanation and a powerful content.
Welcome. Welcome.
Should we start with the first question?
Yeah.
There is one question, and they want to ask that the prof, since you talk about the synthesis, so
Uh, I cannot hear. That, there is a separate. I cannot hear.
you hear us,
No,
prof?
a bad connection. Uh,
Uh,
can you from that? I can
yes,
hear you.
prof. Let me repeat the question, please. Can you hear us, prof? Can you hear us?
Yeah. I can hear you.
Okay,
But
Prof.
the
The
yeah.
first question is the Prof. They want to ask that how many citation does it take to indicate an academic article is influential or academic article is powerful, as a rule of thumb or any standard, to include how many citations should be there in the research article? Yes, please.
Yes. Yeah, good. Thank you. As I said in the beginning, we can also take, for example, three abstracts, but it is only for making the um, previous studies. So only three previous studies. But if we have already got the summary of that article from a table, then we have to. This is there is no chapter two yet. I directly to only the novelty. But after this, then we can see from the summary. For example, number one, for example, about teacher aspect. Then in chapter 2, theoretical framework, we try to find many references, unlimited, about teacher aspect. And the second one is, for example, about the you know, class process or the home condition. So we have to try to find out the variables of home condition that affecting the learner's motivation. So home condition variable, all the theories related to. Therefore, try to find as many as possible, unlimited, as long as you have time and from that the theory, and then you can also find another one. And the third variable, for example, about the learning process, for example, the classroom process. Then what is the factor of classroom process? Try to find out the classroom process. Type on the Google Scholar about that theory. And that is should be developed in the chapter 2. What I did just now in the only how to synthesize only from three, and then we know that actually it can be also done for synthesizing, and we can create our own idea. Yes, good question. Yeah, good question. Why don't you talk about chapter 2? That is another one because it is not in this process. I just want to show the way how to cite and then synthesize. This, yeah, synthesize, yeah, interpret, synthesize, and then that is our novelty. Only three. But if we know three factors, for example, factor A, factor B, factor C, we have to read many references about factor A that should be put in the chapter 2. And then factor B, we have to write as many as possible in the chapter 2.2. And factor C, we have to find references as many as possible. We put it in the chapter 2.3. And then after that, the previous studies. You add more previous studies, the better. You will find another finding, and broader and broader and broader. What I give you here is only the simple way. Three only, we can create a novel. Yes, good question. If you read more, maybe not only three, it can be four, can be five, and then the factors can be five. If the factor five, then the theoretical framework should be five. There is A, B, C, D, E, and then that is the complicated, the more complicated, and therefore, the more you read, the more you get confused in between quotation. Why? Oh, according to this researcher, it is A, this is B, and this is C, and that is confusing. That confusion is good, different from the confusion that you don't understand that the finding. If we know five findings are different and make you confused, meaning that you know they are different. Because of different, then we are confused. But if we don't know, then that's not confusing. So that's good question. Okay, unlimited. What I give you here is only the process of synthesizing three articles. Just read the abstract. You know the creation of our own idea, that is novelty. Thank you
Yeah,
for
very
the question. Yes.
nicely said, Prof. Thank you very much for such an elaborative answer. Again, you have mentioned and you have emphasized on synthesis, and it is unlimited, but you have to strengthen your argument, which is the important point. Thank you for such an elaborative answer. We have another very interesting question, and they want to ask that, Prof, please guide us from your experience that is self-citation in thesis is correct and possible? What do you recommend? Yes, please.
Thank you very much, Dr. Haider, for the invitation. I hope to able to discuss another topic, especially how to
Prof, your voice is not clear, please. Prof, can you hear us? Prof, can you hear us? Prof, can you hear us? I think there is an internet connecting issue. Yes, Prof, we can see you and we can't hear you. I think there is a kind of problem with the internet. Yes, Prof, can you hear us? No? Uh, I think, Prof, we have to conclude because I think there is a problem with the internet connectivity issue, and Prof is unable to uh, communicate properly. So, really, Prof, we enjoyed this session with you because you explained in a wonderful way, and the way you started and the way you concluded your presentation was so fine, so great. And since you have almost 4 decades of your experience in this profession, which was very much visible, and we love the way you explain everything. And I would say that you are the real expert and you are the real leader in this field. And we would recommend to our audience that please do follow our distinguished guest speaker through his research work. You can email him for future learning and guidance. He's very generous and always ready to help the people. Moreover, he has explained in a wonderful way, and the PowerPoint slide which he have has already elaborated is so powerful, and he explained in a wonderful way. So I hope this will help you to learn and develop your understanding regarding the citing and synthesizing as well. So take the advantage of all the information, important tips, and suggestions shared by an expert. So that's all we have time for today. Thank you once again to Associate Professor Dr. Jiwari, and I would like to thank our audience who joined us from around the globe. If you have any additional question about the information shared today, please email us or connect with the speaker directly through his email or social media. Thank you all for your support and liking our sessions. Stay tuned as many sessions are on the way. Please do not miss any session. Until next session, take care of yourself. Bye.